Oh, hey. It just began. So we continue this saga right now. Manga? I don't know. Since I'm not marketing anything.
Chapter 24, so here we are. Some cis-faggy Sense8. A low-rent knockoff called 4G, and you know those Chelsea fags are gonna complain about the lack of G representation. White male gotta watch, white male gotta watch. They say the whole series has been about you, and they are fucking right. Anyway, people are noticing your beef with those nut jobs trying to eat the scene, but with their dick between their teeth the whole time. As a writer, I must say your response is interesting, and just because your hordes of fanboys think your love of shitty, hairy, faceless men in hoods and Nazis is cool, they didn't do jack shit about the harm and racism in it. Whatever. When we left off last, it was the American year 2028. Life in your house is surprisingly unchanged in some ways, which has become very tedious for Chuck Tingle. To live an uneventful existence of late has led Chuck to even being consumed by boredom in the most irritating and repetitive ways imaginable, even if Chuck could start some action-packed pursuit or do something the American youth do these days, like floss and triple jump rope at the mall. Chuck can't even bring himself to leave the house more than 3 times per week at a time for fear that, let's not play coy here, the public and its varied critiques could take notice. Besides, Chuck finds such endeavors so cumbersome. You see, he hasn't actually looked in a mirror or even splashed his face with water for weeks. If you could see it, you'd be appalled to know what's going on. Because we have you to blame. It has taken quite a toll on Chuck, for his habits in all aspects have shifted. These days he can hardly breathe without gasping for air or scratching his head to relieve the tension. Even more of that nasty, cheaply made cream has to be slathered on daily, as the few bitter concoctions left will be off the shelf, and soon the population will start to revolt or flock in droves to the farmers' markets across the country for what we have saved for the first time since the Kennedy era. Not even the dentist knows why, but we can say the physical aspects have, again, transformed with his demeanor, for he feels lighter somehow and isn't too surprised the new mental capacities are yet again making themselves known with an expressiveness far from what was before. He may even get to name that old six nipple on the next mail order from the lab, the last order, in fact, thanks to that power-8 idiot and his smelly cologne. For weeks at a time now, Chuck has been obsessed with the act of rolling and re-rolling his bed sheets and pajamas until they're freshly fresh-smelling, much to his own dazed approval. Pynchon, really this message? Tingle, it's me! Lay off the fucking desoxin. I'm not judging, but you are a shitty drug user. You get high on life and buckaroos and the love that has been kissled away into legality for the past goddamned administration. You are coping, that is all. Alright? You are young and have lots of time ahead to show some finesse. I didn't suffer for these messages. Not after 9/11 and my BF Poody's death. That would be really great if you can think of something that made him happier. You and his family were his most prized possessions. Your mind could spin that out for a really lovely and sweet chapter. And just when I talk to you about his past, I sound like such a boring old fact in my eyes, roll up in my head. Well, the words came from the 12 steppers. If that makes sense, you should seek out the same 12-step meetings as your young self and embrace the chance at a newborn identity and walk out free. Tingle. You may not care, but is one true and faithful friend who you thought of as nothing more than an esteemed co-worker is undergoing a certain phase that even Chuck hasn't explored the depths of to his satisfaction. Tingle. Do you even remember why? How not was not pleaded like a little traffic schoolgirl not to explore. How the only thing that gives me the discipline to not explore is the disoxin. You know what, maybe you should stop calling me while in deep cover because you're not having the finger on the pulsings of my pulsings. When your finger is finally in the vicinity, tap me in chat. Tingle. Please remind me all things must go towards the birth of our ping-pong pony twins. Must they not? What can possibly stop our simultaneous little patch of tenderloins? And where have my pixelated conversations and latchitine pals been of late, Poncho? You can't rely on the censors to alter them properly for me, and you know how those Pepes, if they haven't already eaten him alive, make little comments in the form of swearing as to block such materials with those comment tags on our little beer fizz of late. All these strange fuck tracks of mine and these chat boxes with these supposed friends whom I had met the first time back in 90s chat and now are finally leaving. Oh, as well as, tell me this, don't you know, even when the picture is kept quite away and what's left are all these algorithms, doesn't it not take but a quick flip on that damn lid with the squared and little reflective tiles and bang, straight onto the tip of a special silver icing tip right here? Like you can't see it coming, but it just happens and like no one's even asked for it. And this fucking co-op committee meets with your non-existent American fans. Like the frilly fuck tracks from your women's posh French games with that ending tag that you thought was a little clever just for some you-know-it tall wannabe Weissman coward bastard clown no bigwig or something to say. Pynchon, you chose not to embed with me. You refused being Mrs. Dr. Zhivago. Tingle. You haven't even seen the movie, have you? I think we're probably well on track. You just need to have a heart attack from your willing your way with that and your cognitive candy that you say I can have. And I guess I'm just ditto only on my end. I just have to find a nice prison to find myself in. I'm on the keys, don't you worry, I think it'll happen because of my new novels. I've gone a different text. You see, I've already written about 10 of them. Check out these titles. Pounded in the butt by a big red elephant that I cannot forget, and I'm in no position to forgive. Pounded in the book by the slavery that not only has never left, but has grown much larger than original slavery. Pounded in the butt on the stolen land of the Haudenosaunee and the stolen great law of peace we cribbed for our Constitution. Pounded in the butt by archaic institutions like the Department of Conversion Therapy and the Department of Taking Your Baby by Partial Death C-Section. Death, meaning you, the mother, and 5 times that if you're of color. Pynchon, does your designer have to make the front cover look sexy on these ones too? Tingle, he's a miracle worker on hentai diffusion. No fetus is safe. Pynchon. Sorry about this. I gotta get to another chat box here. Tingle. That's quite all right, my old friend. But would you read them all? Or all those back and forths? But I do admit, though, your non-existent American fans sure do pay the most for our fine goods. The ratio seems about the same, though I could be mistaken and too big-headed for all this great fortune. Your old partner has turned his attention towards your memory banks. Something that's not written for those heretic peppies to feed to the abyss for censoring, but quite frankly, you should have released those out the day they came out, so as not to shame him, we do respect how many hours he has invested into you. With such great delight that, with your forbidding that all would not know the length of your slimy coxcombs, and well, length, have you made mention of those family tree crossbreeds with such care, and that innocence not to be sugared? Those beloved bitches that would have had to be too difficult to love the way you love them. They would have died or ruined the potency of it. A broken promise or an unfair match of spirit. One of them being Tingle. But they could live here in America. Look how they fit right in, and it's great when all those parents that couldn't even remember that one face and couldn't keep track of who was who for 2 fucking minutes are saying, hey, I love the new family, and you know, maybe we can raise all those little asses here. After all, they are only doing what any other teen would do. The memories were hard enough. Now here they were just staring off into space while on a fuck-this trip. Who'd want to forget the sweet new world we made, and just the color of their faces were always so poetic? It's in those people who cannot quite live with that eternal look around their hearts, whether they do admit it or not. It is a kinky one, but one nonetheless, and these would never give into this forever unspent beauty, and so, as their own secret penance, it's often better off forgotten by all involved. Because though it hurts the heart, and that's the loss in them, and no matter what they say, that no one has even bothered to listen to, the problem lies not in those memories, but in that hole, and this is something that most wouldn't think is bad, but actually, this hole is pretty wicked. If it doesn't cure up on its own, maybe you just don't remember quite how much it can change. Such are the things also on the mind's back burner at the Church of the Resilient Whole. A planned community, but one with an innovative lab that has made a name for itself in protein folding. More accurately, they have discovered what we all have already known. The power of the whole is in a loaf of bread that just by slathering all that healthy culture and the apple pie with an aged crust, let it get out into the world. These pharaoh slaps, this perfect crumb has now evolved into a mighty secret, one that all religions would prefer not to acknowledge. What they see as a method to feed all these homeless men is in actuality a testing how our human history has fared as we spread to this very moment. In other words, the souls that are just wandering and crying for that whole crumb within are destined to stay hungry forever. It was indeed a nice excuse. It was just that delicate and upsetting balance to maintain, and by that upsetting balance they can expand into the overabundant gap that everyone knows must be filled but never actually shows the details for others to come in. Such an intimate life between the butt and the belly, and the ice harmonious ray of contentedness in our modest family that took such great pride in knowing they made an honest effort to connect it all, every last damn human life, a common malaise. All the three were watching was an endless river of barely legal tourists rolling out of some epicenters, that handful of gentle misfits. None of them held anything resembling a license to produce such a criminal misfeasance. Pynchon. One last thing. Check out a post by that annoying 5956 tied-in guy in our crowd. It seems his good old editor's new company wants a big project, and not even just the old people. We need a series that's topical and cool. Fuck, since you're currently being watched in 13 places and 9 screens in my screen box you might check out, let's call it this chapter as a bunch of assholes from your new series at an ass book contest where, remember all those pictures in my ex-wife's notebooks from all the ponchos who died from too many joints, all those clippings about that. Apparently this one about to take over our editor is being Riku. No, well, actually that's where our esteemed Mr. Smith got that tag that you still haven't 6 years later embraced and started with a good wing towards an original character of the show. Recruitment. Anyway, look out for, once again, this kinky fella kept nugget of the historical accuracy if the clock says to change the times to whatever your goddamn Libra, or is that Libra? What would they say at this hour? If the fucking clock is running, then say wouldn't this make for an even better plot in your work? Do you still do such little introspection in your old age? Or have you managed to write some poetry over it and expose all its innermost workings? When your initial thoughts are all but empty space, let's keep going forward for once, okay? The round boy took it in the middle of his eyes and made his very first. His eyes. Well, I suppose there are stories from back before he started working that first novel here with all its versions and still more of his notes about all his growing up here. Pynchon, go make us another fortune off that series. Pynchon, something has occurred to me, and I would like you to relay this message to your esteemed friend and not be confused. This message will go something like this. Hi, what are you doing? Oh, not much. Just telling Panchos the story of how in some kind of prescience about that very idea I had while he was working on something else with another editor to make a story out of these scenes that didn't mean me. This idea started to spread that's actually some sort of rich rednecks, or well, they were raised by someone who didn't understand rednecks and who was thinking about being one, so their worldview is such and they seem to understand it as all-knowing, but like they never seem to step a foot outside. This, when read together with that weird label for them in a black letter, like the saying of the three-way Y-shaped person over and over again, made sense to those who weren't bothered by these characters like rednecks as much, and by the very time we had another 2 or 3 titles for him to write up for this series like we were calling it. Tingle. Recall how I begged for permission for an assignment, given an interview with you after all, only to find myself repeatedly thrown against a wall over and over and over by this never-ending trivia test. 6! Free and counting. It was a couple days before the sun decided to light up and announce it had won its very own Olympic. This is what my peppy friends from the 90s called me every night, and here was no denying my commitment to, for their memory, Pynchon. When you all pull their muscles again, that is. Tingle. Why? After all these years that I've been dancing, still waiting for those pixels and coding for all this hoopla, when my gentle caress started with some simple close-up crotches. My wholesome, priceless art just could not wait, and those secret vid feeds in the conservatory must have made someone's day for this art to come up before his slasher face. While we were on about your introduction back then, let's see, you should remember. Oh, only if you ever found a picture in a locked trunk before an old noodle war was done with that father. Think about the ladies as I now often talk of your virility, our crazy arts as I riddle rhyme into that clickbait deep in the cavern of our friendship. Can you, will you, should you, and then?
Okay. Little break. And I'll do the next one in a bit.